My fiancée never wore her engagement ring to work. When I asked why, she said, "It's not professional, and I don't owe anyone my relationship status." I let it go. Until one of her coworkers sent me a group photo, captioned, "Office's favorite single girl." I didn't say a word. 3 days later, I made one move that blew everything up. She's been blowing up my phone ever since, begging me to please help her. I didn't notice it at first. You'd think a man would immediately spot when his fiancée isn't wearing the $18,500 engagement ring he saved for 2 years to buy her. But Melissa was smart about it. She'd take it off right before leaving for work, slipping it into her purse. Then she'd put it back on the minute she walked through our door in the evening. It wasn't until I surprised her at lunch one day, bringing her favorite sandwich from that deli across town, that I noticed her bare finger. "Where's your ring?" I asked, setting down her sandwich. The question seemed to startle her. Her eyes flicked to her hand, then back to me. "I don't wear it to work." "Since when?" "Since always, James." She unwrapped her sandwich, not meeting my eyes. "I've never worn it to work." I sat there stunned, trying to process this. We'd been engaged for 7 months. She'd never once mentioned this habit. "Is there a reason why? Does it get in the way of typing or something?" I asked, trying to keep my tone casual while my mind raced through darker possibilities. "It's not professional," she said with a dismissive wave of her naked left hand. "And honestly, I don't owe anyone my relationship status. It's easier to keep things strictly business." I let it drop. Didn't want to seem like some insecure, controlling asshole making a scene in her office, but it nagged at me all afternoon. That evening, I brought it up again as she was making dinner. "I didn't realize your workplace was so traditional about jewelry. Seems odd in 2023. Melissa sighed dramatically, putting down her knife. "James, you're overthinking this. Lots of professional women don't wear engagement rings to work. It changes how male colleagues treat you. It's my choice." "Sure, I respect that. Just wish you'd mentioned it." She rolled her eyes. "Do I need to report every piece of jewelry I decide not to wear?" And that's how the conversation ended, me feeling vaguely ridiculous for even bringing it up. Slightly annoyed but victorious in shutting down further discussion. I might have forgotten the whole thing, except for what happened 2 weeks later. I was scrolling through Instagram when I noticed a post from Keith, one of Melissa's coworkers I'd met at their holiday party. It was a group photo from some office happy hour. There was Melissa, center of the group, cocktail in hand, laughing. The caption read, "Thursday drinks with the team. Office's favorite single girl showing us how it's done. #workfamily, #thirsty Thursday." Single girl. I stared at those 2 words until my vision blurred. Then I zoomed in on her left hand, visible around her cocktail glass. No ring, obviously, but it was the hashtag in caption that knocked the wind out of me. This wasn't just about not wearing a ring. She was actively presenting herself as single. That night, when Melissa came home, the ring was right there on her finger, as always. She kissed me hello, casual as could be. I didn't confront her, didn't mention the photo. Instead, I watched and waited. The next morning, sure enough, right before leaving, she slipped the ring off and tucked it away in her purse. "Have a great day, babe," she called, door closing behind her. I sat at our kitchen counter for a long time after she left. We'd been together for 3 years before I proposed, lived together for 2. I thought I knew her. Now I wondered what else I might have missed. That afternoon, I called my buddy Eric, who works in the same industry as Melissa, corporate consulting. I described the situation without identifying details. "Man, that's not normal," Eric said bluntly. "I know plenty of married women in the field. No one's hiding rings for professionalism anymore. This isn't 1962. "That's what I thought," I replied. "Look, I don't want to put ideas in your head, but you might want to dig a little deeper." I didn't need any encouragement there. That evening, while Melissa was in the shower, I did something I'm not proud of. I checked her phone. Never done that before. Always respected her privacy. But the ring thing had shaken something fundamental in my trust. What I found was worse than I imagined. A separate Instagram account I didn't know about. A Tinder profile, active as recently as last week. And text conversations with men, including Keith from the office, that made it clear she wasn't just presenting as single. She was acting single. I took screenshots of everything, emailed them to myself, then put her phone back exactly as I'd found it. When she came out of the shower, I managed to act normal, somehow. For the next 2 days, I lived in a state of cold, calculated fury. I didn't yell, didn't confront her. Every evening, she'd walk in with that ring on her finger, kiss me, ask about my day, and I'd pretend everything was fine. All while planning my exit. On the 3rd day, I made my move. I waited until she left for work, ring tucked safely in her purse. Then I packed my essential belongings, loaded them into my truck, and drove to the bank. See, I'd been saving for our wedding. A separate account with $42,000 set aside for the venue, catering, honeymoon, all of it. Melissa knew about this account, but didn't have access. What she didn't know was that last month, I'd added her name to it as a surprise. I'd planned to tell her at dinner that weekend, give her full access to the wedding funds so she could book whatever she wanted. Some surprise, huh? At the bank, I closed the account completely. Every penny back into my personal account that she couldn't touch. Then I drove to my buddy Mark's lake house. He'd agreed to let me crash there until I figured things out. At 2:17 p.m., the text started. James, what the hell did you do? The wedding venue just called. They said our payment bounced. I called the bank and they said the account is closed. Answer your phone right now. I didn't respond, just watched the notifications pile up. By evening, her tone had changed. James, please talk to me. I don't understand what's happening. Whatever you think is going on, we can fix this. Just call me back. I love you. Please don't do this. The next day, she must have gone home during lunch and discovered some of my things missing. That's when the panic really set in. You moved out without even talking to me? What the hell is wrong with you? This is insane. You can't just throw away 3 years over nothing. Please, James, I'm begging you. Whatever this is about, we can work it out. Still, I said nothing, just documented everything. Then her latest message caught me off guard. Oh God, did someone tell you something? Is this about the work stuff? I can explain everything, I swear. It's not what you think. That evening, I finally broke my silence. I sent her exactly 4 items. 1, the screenshot of Keith's Instagram post. 2, a screenshot of her Tinder profile. 3, a screenshot of her texts with Keith discussing how I was clueless about them. 4, a photo of my empty ring box. No commentary, no angry message, just the evidence. Her response was immediate. Phone calls, texts, emails. She showed up at our apartment, now just hers, since I'd paid the next 3 months' rent but removed myself from the lease. When she couldn't find me, she started contacting my friends, family, even my boss. Hysterical, crying, begging people to tell her where I was. Nobody did. Because nobody knew, except Mark, who's been my best friend since 5th grade and would sooner cut off his own arm than betray me. 3 days of silence from me, and her messages took on a desperate edge. My credit card is maxed out, and now I can't even buy groceries. I was counting on the joint account for the rent next week. Please help me. I'm scared. Keith just told me they're letting me go at work. Someone sent those screenshots to HR. Was that you? How could you do this to me? My parents won't even talk to me. What did you tell them? For the record, I didn't send anything to HR or her parents. Didn't have to. Turns out Keith panicked when he saw I had their texts and confessed everything to their boss, trying to get ahead of it. And Melissa's parents? They figured it out when she called them hysterical about me emptying our wedding account. Her father called me directly, and I answered his call. When he heard my side, including seeing the evidence, he just sighed deeply and said, "She's always been her own worst enemy. I'm sorry, son." It's been 2 weeks now. I've moved into a new apartment. Filed for a clean break? Thankfully, we weren't married yet, so it's just a matter of separating our few joint possessions. I kept the furniture I'd brought into the relationship. Let her keep the stuff we bought together. Fair is fair. The ring? Still in my truck's glove compartment. Part of me wants to sell it and recoup some losses. Another part wants to keep it as a reminder. Even people who look at you with tearful joy when accepting a proposal can be living a double life. Last night, I finally answered one of her calls. Not out of weakness or forgiveness, just to put an end to it. "What do you want, Melissa?" She was crying. "I need help, James. They're threatening eviction. My cards are all maxed out. I've got no one else to turn to." "You had me," I said quietly. A man who loved you enough to buy you a ring you didn't wear and save for a wedding you never intended to go through with. And you threw it away. Those are your choices, not mine. I made a terrible mistake, she sobbed. I was confused and stupid. We can fix this. There's no we anymore, Melissa. Figure it out yourself. I hung up and blocked her number. Then I poured myself 2 fingers of whiskey and finally felt something like peace settling in. The worst part of betrayal isn't the lies they tell you, it's the truth they reveal about themselves. Melissa showed me who she really was, not through her words, but through her actions, and I believed her. Sometimes the most powerful move you can make isn't a confrontation. It's simply walking away and closing the door behind you. Update 1 week later. I didn't expect this post to get so much attention. Thanks for all the messages of support and the awards. Several people asked for updates, so here's where things stand a week later. First, to answer the most common questions. Yes, I kept records of all the money I put into the apartment and wedding fund. No, she can't sue me for the wedding account. I checked with my lawyer before closing it. Yes, the ring is legally mine since the engagement was broken due to her infidelity. In my state, engagement rings are conditional gifts. After my last update, Melissa's attempts to contact me shifted to social media since I'd blocked her number. She's been telling a very different version of the story, claiming I financially abused her by stealing our wedding fund and leaving her without resources. A few mutual friends believed her at first until I privately showed them the evidence. The most surprising development came from Keith's wife. Yes, apparently he had one, I should say. She reached out to me on Facebook, thanking me for inadvertently exposing their affair. Turns out Keith had been feeding her and Melissa the same lines about being unhappy in his primary relationship. When everything blew up at their workplace, she found out about Melissa and several other women. She's filed for divorce and taken their kids to stay with her parents. As for Melissa's financial situation, I've heard through mutual friends that she's moved back in with her parents. Her father, who I always respected, called me again to apologize for the drama. Said he and his wife had enabled Melissa's behavior over the years and never held her accountable. Maybe this is the wake-up call she needs, he said. I appreciate his decency in a messy situation. I sold the ring yesterday, took a 30% loss on what I paid, but it's worth it to have that chapter closed. Used some of the money to book a solo trip to Montana next month. Always wanted to try fly fishing. My new apartment is coming together. Simple, clean, mine. I've reconnected with friends I'd neglected during my relationship with Melissa. Turns out she had gradually isolated me from several people who weren't good for us. In retrospect, probably because they saw through her. A buddy convinced me to join him at his boxing gym. Hitting the heavy bag 3 times a week has been the best therapy I could ask for. I'm sleeping better, thinking clearer. For those who suggested I exposed Melissa out of vindictiveness, you're missing the point. I didn't send screenshots to her workplace or blast her on social media. I simply removed myself from a fraudulent relationship and let the truth speak for itself. The domino effect that followed was the natural consequence of her own actions. The hardest part has been trusting my judgment again. I keep asking myself how I missed the signs for so long. My therapist, yes, I started seeing one, says this is normal. We see what we want to see in the people we love, until we can't ignore the reality anymore. To the guy who commented that I should have confronted her like a man instead of sneaking around. Buddy, confrontations are for people who deserve explanations. You don't owe a play-by-play to someone who's been deceiving you for months. I'm not angry anymore. Just reflective. At 39, I thought I'd be married with kids by now. Instead, I'm starting over. But for the first time in a long time, I'm making choices solely based on what I want, not compromising for someone else's lies. That's freedom worth protecting. Update, 3 months later, many of you have continued checking in. So, here's a final update on how things have played out. Melissa's parents eventually put conditions on her staying with them, including therapy and getting a new job. According to her younger sister, who reached out to me last month, Melissa has been diagnosed with narcissistic personality traits and is finally getting professional help. Not my circus, not my monkeys, but I hope she finds peace. Keith's divorce is getting messy. His wife's attorney contacted me for a statement regarding what I knew about their affair. I provided only factual information, dates of texts I saw, content that specifically mentioned his marital status. No editorializing, just facts. His soon-to-be ex sent me a thank you note last week. Turns out there's a significant non-disclosure clause in their prenup that he violated by discussing their marriage with Melissa. Actions, consequences. On my end, life has settled into a new normal. That Montana fly fishing trip was exactly what I needed. A week of mountains, rivers, and zero cell service. Came back feeling like myself again. The boxing gym has become a regular part of my routine. Dropped 15 pounds of relationship stress weight and gained some definition I haven't seen since my early 30s. Work is going well. I was promoted last month. Might have happened anyway, but having my full focus back on my career instead of managing Melissa's constant dramas has certainly helped. Dating? Not yet. I've had opportunities, but I'm taking my time. Working on being comfortable by myself first. My therapist says that's healthy, and for once I'm following professional advice instead of trying to muscle through alone. The money from the ring funded not just the Montana trip, but also a photography course I've always wanted to take. Found out I have a decent eye for landscapes. It's become a weekend hobby that gets me outdoors and focused on something constructive. Last week, I ran into Melissa at a grocery store. First time I've seen her in person since everything happened. She looks different. Thinner, less makeup, more subdued. She approached cautiously and asked if we could talk sometime. I told her I was glad to hear she was getting help, but that I didn't see a purpose in reopening old wounds. She accepted this without argument. Growth, perhaps. As I was leaving, she said something that stuck with me. I never deserved that ring. Not because of what I did, but because I never appreciated what it meant. For once, we agree on something. So that's it, the final update. I wanted to thank this community for the support during one of the darkest periods of my life. Your comments, messages, and shared experiences helped me realize I wasn't crazy for feeling betrayed, and I wasn't wrong for walking away. To anyone going through something similar, trust your gut, document everything, and remember that how you handle betrayal says more about your character than it ever will about theirs. Life goes on, and sometimes it gets better than you could have imagined. Eat it. Several people have asked about the financial aspects of the separation and whether Melissa had any legal claim to the wedding fund. To clarify, the account was solely in my name until 1 month before everything blew up. I had added her as a beneficiary, but not a joint account holder. She had never contributed to it. All funds were from my separate savings. I consulted with a lawyer before closing it who confirmed I was within my legal rights. Whether or not it was an asshole move, as some have suggested, is subjective, but it was completely legal. Edit 2. To the person who asked about the one move that blew everything up, it was closing the wedding account. Melissa had already made numerous non-refundable deposits with vendors based on the assumption she had access to those funds. When the account closed, payments bounced, vendors called her, and her house of cards collapsed. I didn't actively expose her double life. I simply removed my financial support, and the truth revealed itself. Eat it 3. Reading some of these comments has been eye-opening. To the people suggesting I should have supported her financially during the transition period regardless of her betrayal. Are you serious? Would you continue funding the lifestyle of someone who was actively deceiving you? Respect is a two-way street. When she chose to present herself as single while enjoying the financial security of our engagement, she forfeited any claim to my support. You reap what you sow.